Fortunately, traffic on the roads and ridership on the T have both been light, and I just want to say how much we appreciate everyone staying home and off the roads as the storm continues to work its way across the Commonwealth. I want to make one point pretty clear, which is that the bulk of the snow, particularly in central and eastern Mass, is going to fall from this point forward, and it's very people continue to stay off the roads throughout the rest of the day. I was going to wrap up probably around early evening in the west and sometime around 8 or 9 o'clock in the east. We should all know and understand the temperatures are going to get very cold at that point. The forecast, in fact, is calling for single-digit temperatures across most of the state this evening, with the wind chill bringing those numbers below zero overnight and into tomorrow morning. It's important that everyone continue to monitor the storm throughout the rest of the day wherever you happen to be. Visibility in many areas is down to 1/4 mile, and there are whiteout conditions in certain areas moving around the Commonwealth. We're seeing sustained winds of 25 to 35 miles per hour and gusts that are up to 50 to 60 miles an hour as well. The wind's expected to continue throughout the day, into the evening, and probably into tomorrow morning. The wind gusts will likely result in widespread snow drifts even after the snow has stopped falling, so please remember to exercise serious caution even after the storm has moved through. We've received reports of minor coastal flooding in some areas following this morning's high tide, largely consisting of splashover along the coastline. And as of 11:30 this morning, there were around 3,000 or 4,000 power outages across the state, which people are hustling to solve for as we speak. State police has reported some crashes and spinouts due to the slick roads. So again, we're asking folks, if they can, to just stay off the roads and not travel unless it's absolutely necessary to do so. And if you must travel, we'll continue to urge you to use public transportation if you can. Transportation Secretary Stephanie Pollack is here. She'll provide additional details on Mass DOT and the MBTA in a few minutes, but I do want to acknowledge the highway crews who are operating over 3,000 pieces of equipment and the MBTA personnel who have been working extremely hard throughout the storm in a concerted effort to clear the roads and prevent major disruptions in service. The T and the commuter rail are operating on regular schedules, and the T's Emergency Operations Center will remain active throughout the storm. If you must travel, do so safely, minimize distractions, plan ahead, and of course, stay away from the plows. We want everybody not to crowd the plows. Have we said that often enough? Don't crowd the plows. We're also asking everyone to continue to be good neighbors, check in on your family and your friends, and especially the elderly and anyone you know in your neighborhood who may need or require additional assistance. Clear your home and auto exhaust vents to prevent carbon monoxide exposure and avoid any downed utility wires, but please report those if you see them. And please continue to assist in keeping sidewalks clean, and especially fire hydrants and storm drains in your neighborhood. We also want to remind everyone to continue observing any guidance from your local municipality and encourage you to check with your schools, churches, or other local organizations for any additional messaging concerning delays or cancellations before heading outside. And again, please avoid all travel unless absolutely necessary, and if you must if you must travel, please allow the snow removal teams to safely do their jobs. The Emergency Operations Center here at MEMA headquarters will remain activated throughout the storm to continue to providing situational awareness updates and assistance to our cities and towns, and we'll continue to monitor forecasts through the evening and into tomorrow, and if there's any need to update the public, we will do so. For updates on other matters, we're pleased to be joined by public safety and transit officials from across the Commonwealth, including Public Safety Secretary Dan Bennett, Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Matt Beaton, Lieutenant Colonel Hughes from the State Police, Transportation Secretary Stephanie Pollack, and Kurt Schwartz, who's the director of MEMA and our host here. At this point, I want to turn the podium over to Transportation Secretary Pollack for a few words about the roads and the MBTA.
Thank you, Governor. So thanks in part to the great response from our traveling public in staying off. We're seeing the situation on both the roads and the MBTA is that for those people who do need to travel, we're keeping things moving. There's about 3,300 pieces of equipment out on the roads right now. At this point, we are mostly plowing. But we are, as the governor mentioned, we're expecting both blowing and drifting snow even after the snowfall stops and dropping temperatures. So planning is already underway for after the storm ends to make sure that the cleanup continues and that the roads are properly pre-treated for tomorrow morning's rush hour. On the MBTA side, all services are running on a regular schedule. We have not seen any substantial or out of the ordinary delays. The one exception that I will mention is that the MBTA ferry systems are going to close for the middle part of the day. We only saw about 300 people come in on the ferries this morning, so they're going to close down in the middle part of the day, but they will resume service beginning at 3:25 p.m., and we will get everybody who came in on the ferries home on the ferries this evening. Similarly, the buses are all running. We're not on winter schedule, so the buses are running, the subway system and the commuter rail system are all running full schedules, and so far are all running on time and providing the service for the folks who do need to get around during the storm. One of the things I'll mention is that, as some of us may remember from 2 winters ago, we were sort of using a lot of the MBTA trains as the snow plows, and the snow was this kind of light, fluffy snow that we're having today was clogging up the traction motors, and that was a major cause of failure. For this storm, we have successfully outfitted the front of 80 of the MBTA rapid transit lines with specially fabricated plows, so we actually have plows on the trains which will both push the snow out of the way and prevent it from getting into the traction motor. This is just one of the many changes that have been made to the snow operation of the MBTA to ensure reliable operation through the storm.
Questions?
Governor, how does this storm measure up obviously there was the Big Daddy 2 years ago, but...
Just followed by his little brother, which is almost just as bad, yeah.
How does this one stack up? I mean, is this sort of a typical New England storm in your opinion, or, where are we?
Well, I guess what I would say is I'll be able to answer that a little better a little later on. I want people to remember that for big chunks of Massachusetts, the heaviest snow is still in front of us, and the blowing and the cleanup is also in front of us as well, followed by the freezing temperatures. But from my point of view, this is a large but fairly typical annual event here in Massachusetts and New England, which is a nor'easter that moves with a fairly significant amount of speed across the Commonwealth and drops somewhere between 2 and 4 inches of snow an hour for some period of time. The fast-moving nature of this storm, the fact that it hit Western Mass somewhere around 5 o'clock this morning and is going to be leaving Eastern Mass somewhere around 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, speaks to some extent to what we typically get out of a nor'easter. The real issue for us on this would have been if the thing had decided to stick around or move a lot slower, in which case we would have ended up with snow totals that would have started to approach some of the stuff we saw in 15.
So you think we'll be all set for tomorrow morning? All systems go?
That is certainly the game plan, to be all set for tomorrow morning and all systems go. That's part of the reason why we expect that a lot of folks are going to be working hard through the night and into tomorrow morning to make sure that, as the Secretary Pollock said, that the roads get pre-treated and that we continue to do what we need to do to deal with whatever the blowing is and the cold weather does to the tracks for either the commuter rail or the transit system. We'll obviously been working pretty hard to make sure that the roads the buses have to travel on are ready as well.
Does this show that the MBTA is ready for the real world, that it's all repaired and good to go? Is this the challenge?
We have a long way to go between now and the end of the day and tomorrow morning. I will echo some of the comments that Secretary Pollock made. Almost all of the above-ground third rail that powers both the Red Line and Orange Line was replaced after the storms in 2015. Thereby assuring that they would be far more dependable and reliable in bad weather than they were previously. There's a tremendous investment that's been made in standalone snow removal capability, as well as sort of snap-on plows. It's probably an unfortunate term, but snap-on plows to put on the front ends of the trains. They'll be running those pretty much through the day and probably into the night. They have There was not an operations center, an emergency operations center at the T back in 2015. They now have a fully equipped emergency operations center, which they staff accordingly based on the nature of the problem and the size of the storm. Dispatchers had 4 or 5 roles previously. We now have dispatchers just worrying about dispatching and other people worrying about a lot of the incoming information that comes into the system. I think the folks at the T have done a tremendous amount of work to make sure that they can, in fact, perform in difficult circumstances in bad weather like this. But it's going to be incumbent on everybody to make sure that people stay engaged on this all the way through until tomorrow morning, so that when the morning rush starts tomorrow, we're prepared and ready for it. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, as I have said, we are confident that all the pieces are in place for the T to be able to operate successfully, reliably, and safely through a storm like this, but this storm will test whether all of the work that has been done, much of which has not been tested, because this is the biggest storm we've had since 2015. This is really our opportunity to put all those pieces into place, the new procedures, the new equipment, and the upgraded infrastructure. And the T is prepared to perform as well as it can, and I have no doubt that we will also learn things from this that we will have to continue to make further adjustments. But one of the things that I am confident about is the T's ability to plan, react, respond, and then evaluate and be resilient and make changes has improved substantially. We saw that ability in how it reacted, for example, to the Patriots Parade or the Women's March or other large-scale events. And so that's, I think, one of the most tangible signs. It's still running the same vehicle fleet, quite frankly, that it was running 2 years ago, and that fleet is 2 years older. But as an agency, the processes, the procedures, the storm center, the new snow removal equipment, the new third rail, and the heaters, all of that should pay off today in a much more reliable transit system for the people who do need to travel. When it's winter in New England, we should be able to tell people to take public transportation and know that it will work for them.
Last question. Thanks, guys. Governor, how are you spending your afternoon now?
No.
I'm going to go over to the DOT Transportation Center in South Boston and probably do some, and what I do after that will be a function of sort of what we learned from there. And if we believe we need to communicate with all of you, we will make, and with the folks here in Massachusetts, we'll make sure we do that again later today.